Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll make my custom metal picture frame that holds my welding diploma that I spent 2 years achieving at Niagara College. Now the tubing I used for here is 1-inch square tubing with a 1/8 wall. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the thicker the wall, the heavier it is, so I wanted to have a good heft to it. It's like getting corporate awards. If it doesn't have much weight to it, it feels kind of empty. So when you definitely lift this, you feel like it's got some definite weight to it. It weighs 10 pounds, so it's definitely not light. The other nice thing about 1/8 wall tubing, which is my preference, is it's a good combination of not too thin so that you burn through it with a rod or a flux core, which is what I used for this one here. And the other advantage is it's a lot less prone to heat distortion if you know what you're doing well. And I have a fixture table behind me here. I use a little bit of it for this project here, but I haven't used a lot of the tools that I have with it yet. I'll be using that for later on other projects. Now you might be wondering what these are. These are just little tabs that I cut out, and the purpose of that is to hold everything into place so that nothing just sort of pops out. On the back, I have these two tabs here, and what they do is they allow you, one, they're an offset, so when you put on the wall, they're a little bit further behind. But what these are is when I do CNC routering of live edge tables and stuff like that, they're never flat and I need them parallel. So what they are, they go underneath by like 1/32 increments, and they make it, you know, sort of even. So when I router at one side, I can flip it around, everything dead flat. Works out great for this picture frame because it holds it in place perfectly. Something that always surprises me whenever I do a review of these videos is how many steps are involved with making something that looks relatively simple. In this case here, it's the college diploma I got from 2 years of welding. And you think just looking at the frame, oh, that's probably done in an hour. But it takes quite a bit of time to organize everything. The first thing is getting the raw metal, of course, cutting it to size, and then you're not done. You can't just weld it right off the bat. If you weld it right off the bat, you end up with something that's not square, not parallel, not level, and so forth. So everything needs a cleanup. So you clean up the metal first, then you cut it, and then you clean up all the edges here, so you get a nice clean weld on all the edges. After that, you actually have to put it all together square. Well, that's not something that takes a minute or two. It takes, 10, 15 minutes to get something like this set up. And yes, I have a fixture table, as you can see, but it's more efficient to work things this way for this specific project. But again, just setting up to weld is not 1 minute. You got to get a jacket on, you got to put your gloves on, your goggles, your welding helmet, you got to test everything, turn the machine on. So everything on this video might look like it's happening really, really fast, and it is because I sped it up tremendously. But what you don't see is all the prep before the video, and of course afterwards. After I'm done welding, well, I got to take the jacket off, got to take the helmet off, the goggles, all that stuff. So there's a continuous process when it comes to especially welding and metal fabrication, where a lot of the steps that you see on the video are just a fraction of what the work is involved to begin with. Now, when I made this specific picture frame, I didn't do any measurements with it. I had the diploma right there, so I used that as my reference point for everything. So if I wanted to find out how long I should cut the 1-inch tubing, all I do is put the diploma against it, mark it with a chalk, and I know exactly where to cut, get everything to fit. So what that means is you don't always have to measure stuff. You could just, if you have something that something needs to fit inside of, just use that something and don't worry about measuring anything. Now here I'm manually plasma cutting angle iron, and it's a 1/8 wall. And I had to go over it a couple of times because I didn't have enough amps. I have 2 plasma cutters in the shop. One that runs the CNC plasma, and that can cut 2-inch thick steel, not a problem. But I don't have a manual torch with it. It runs off the plasma table. And then I have another plasma cutter that's a manual one, but it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of amps that the other one has. So that's why you saw me going over the piece a couple of times to make sure I could cut it properly. Now, it didn't really matter because I knew I was going to angle grind these anyways. So even if it looks really, really rough, which it did, doesn't matter. Now for this project here, originally I was considering actually just doing everything using sheet metal arc welding, but there's so many little pieces involved that I decided just to do everything with flux core. Now what you see here You'll notice that sometimes when I have something spinning, I have gloves on, and sometimes when I have something spinning, I don't have gloves on. Now in this case here, I'm really close to the grinding belt, so you don't want to wear gloves for that because they could get sucked in along with your finger and it's not going to end nicely. But earlier in the video, when you saw me cutting this metal tubing, I actually have metal gloves on because the shrapnel from doing this process flies everywhere. And of course I'm wearing, goggles and helmets and all that kind of stuff on top of that you don't see in the video. But all that little shrapnel is not very enjoyable to have on your fingers. So whenever I can wear gloves safely, I wear. If I don't need them or can't, then I don't. So when I was doing the little pieces, I could hold them only for a certain amount of time because it'd get really, really hot. So that was my limiting factor there. And then I have to wait a little bit, let them cool down, and then go back onto the sander and again, weld them to fit properly on the metal frame. Now, the sort of glass, I didn't have glass in the shop. I have this PETG, which is what this is here, and it's 0.06 inches thick, which is fine. So I use that for the front and the back of the diploma. And then I use the MDF on the back to hold everything and push everything together. I initially spray painted this entire frame matte black, and I didn't like the finish of it. So I decided just to sandblast the entire surface of it, and then after that, I could sandblast everything. Everything sort of works perfectly that way. I prefer the aesthetic of sandblasted metal than not sandblasted metal. And here you can see me assembling everything together. So if you're looking for custom metal work, contact me at CNCKing.com. We'll make it for you and ship it right to your door.